Welcome to the Shot Clock, everybody. Ben Mankiewicz and Dave Rubin with you. Great NBA duos. Obviously, every great team you got at least two great players.
They want you to have three these days, but you got to have
three.
Two.
Three is the that's the standard that Miami set. But two and good spare parts. Spare parts is selling some of those guys short. Complementary parts, a better way to put it, can do it. And you look around the league, and there are a lot of really top-notch duos. Tempting to say that Westbrook and Durant are the best right now. Would you say so?
I mean, I can't say it for a team that I think right this second is one game over 500, and that these guys have alternately been hurt and all that. Yes, everything being equal, if you took health and if everybody was equally healthy and records were not part of this thing, yeah, there's no doubt those two are the best. But I have a feeling that I'm going with Steph Curry.
Well, those guys are Curry and Thompson are clearly the most fun right now to watch, just by far. I mean, he scored 37 points in a quarter and didn't miss a shot.
9 for 9 threes, 13. I mean, it was ridiculous. Some of those last 2 threes were just completely bonkers. By Klay Thompson.
His buddy Steph Curry also dropped 51. Earlier this week.
Right. I mean, they just so they're incredible to watch, but they're both guards. And if you were to look at a top 10 list, Sports Illustrated put together an interesting top 10 list of duos. That's the only backcourt duo that makes it. Traditionally, you think if you're going to have two guys, it may not, it's tempting to have it be a point guard and a power forward, but really, at the bare minimum, you think you need a front court player and a backcourt player.
Yeah.
Or you've got an imbalanced team. Golden State has figured out how not to be imbalanced because the complementary parts are so perfectly complementary. I think that we're making a mistake, though, and it took a while. It took half the season. Credit to Quicken Loans owner Dan Gilbert for not firing David Glatt. But they won Glatt. Thank you. Yeah. I went to high school with David Glatt.
Oh yeah, that's just a different guy altogether. Yeah.
So, kudos to Cleveland.
They could have panicked.
Cavaliers owner Dan Gilbert for not firing David Blatt. They didn't panic. They've won 12 in a row. LeBron is still the best player in the league. So his complementary part, who's a pretty damn good player, Kyrie Irving, maybe it'll turn into Kevin Love. Love played really well last night in that win over the Clippers. That's a pretty good duo with either one of them, although Love still doesn't seem quite to have found his role.
Love's not the second guy on this team. There's no doubt. Something is just not quite right about him in this mix, or he hasn't quite figured out how to defer properly, not be the number one guy on a kind of average team.
He does.
But Kyrie had
Love
55.
still does this a lot.
Yeah, he does. He does do that.
Give it to me. I'll shoot it. Yeah.
I mean, Kyrie had 55.
Yes, that's right.
Including the game winner.
To beat Portland, yeah.
So, those two. Yeah, I guess actually everything being equal, would you guess against those guys? It's just started to click. That's why
we're not sure. Yeah. We're not sure because they literally didn't click for a while. But remember, neither did those three in Miami for a while.
Yep.
The Cleveland not clicking seemed to go on a little longer.
Yeah.
And the defense in Cleveland's still going to be an issue, and I think will keep them from getting to the NBA Finals. But if they figure the defense out in some capacity, don't bet against those guys I'd love to see that. I'd love to see those three guys go up against the Warriors in the finals, because by then Cleveland will clearly have been playing a lot better, and that's obviously a series that Cleveland could win.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. You mentioned that most of these duos, it's not two backcourt guys. So I'm trying to think of a backcourt duo that actually won using those two guys. I guess maybe the last one might be the bad boy Pistons, right? And even that, Dumars was the second guy. He did win. He won an MVP in the finals one of those years.
Thomas and Dumars were the two best players on that team, so I think that works. But they had this otherworldly interior defense with Lambeer and Mahorn and Rodman that made that a little unfair to exclude those guys.
That's back when the NBA, when you were allowed to wear brass knuckles when you were playing defense.
Right? Yeah, and that's where you'd be like a 79-76 final in a playoff game was sort of acceptable to everybody.
Right.
So, I mean, real quick, throwing back to the old school, because you guys remember the old school. You watched it. Kobe, Shaq, Stockton, Malone, Jordan, Pippen, compared to nowadays of the Curry, Thompson, Westbrook, Durant, Lillard, Aldridge.
I just love you go back, but you won't go
you're not going back that far.
Yeah, I mean,
I was alive for some of it.
How about Bill Russell, Bob Cousy?
Bill Russell, Bob Cousy. You forget.
I like Bob Cousy. Good player.
Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Right.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I think that may win, and then oh yeah, James Worthy.
Yeah,
Oh,
that James Worthy guy. He was okay.
Throw
too.
in that James Worthy guy.
I guess the Kobe Shaq one. I guess now it's so many years later, and we know how they really felt about each other that it's hard to imagine that it really worked, but it obviously did, and they were both unbelievable.
It there's more if there's dissension on a team, it can ruin it in the NBA. Baseball is the best guy for that. You used to say about the Boston Red Sox, even when they were good and losing that heartbreaking World Series to the Mets in 1986. The slogan about the Red Sox was one of the greatest slogans ever. It's 25 guys, 25 cabs.
Right.
But it doesn't really matter if you can play together, if there's chemistry on the court. Basketball, where chemistry is so important, if guys don't like each other, there's the danger that can bleed over. But I think we make a little too much of, you don't have to be that chummy.
No, you don't.
Teammates.
It's just funny looking back now. Look, they both won championships without each other, too.
That's right. Yeah.
So I guess maybe that takes away from it a little bit. The other ones, Stockton and Malone, when they were, for all those years, talk about guys that had a shitty cast of characters.
Always
they never
needed another guy.
They always, they thought Jeff Hornacek was going to be, or who was Jeff Malone? Remember Jeff Malone?
Of course, Jeff Malone, from former Washington Bullet.
Yeah, they just never had that other guy that really materialized. But they were
always needed a better other guy, or the slightly better full 4 or 5.
Right, but in terms of a duo that played together for probably 13 or maybe 14 years, I mean, that's probably the gold standard.
But let's again, we left out.
Yeah,
you leave it out Magic. We left out Magic and Kareem and Worthy. I think you have to mention Larry Bird and Kevin McHale.
Bird and McHale were pretty good.
And Robert Parrish and
Dennis
Johnson.
Who was the other one? Well, then of course, then the Jordan Pippen thing. Yeah, I guess we don't even think of it in a weird way because Jordan was just Jordan. So I almost don't even count it. But I know that doesn't make sense, really.
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to know about Scottie Pippen, but my hunch is a lot of people could have had that role. There were a lot.
Although he had a great year, the year that '94, when the first time Jordan sat.
No question, great player.
But a lot of those
great players. But I think we could have pieced in a number of players in the league. His defense changed who he was. So I might be wrong, but that was. I just feel like that was Jordan. That was Jordan.
Yeah.